Hello, this is Martha Alter-Hines with Living the One Light. So in this video, I want to talk about a few interrelated things, all, all converging under the one big topic of one way of dropping into the embodiment of the archetype of Virgo. And so just to outline the various things I want to talk about in this video, I'm recording this video on August 12th, 2022. And on August 27th, 2022, we have a new moon in Virgo. On August 24th, 2022, I'm going to be holding a workshop about Virgo and our embodied inner temple and our sovereignty. So I'll come back around to that and I'll say a little more about all of that. But the other thing I want to tie in with all of this that's going on astrologically right now is we also have Hygeia, the asteroid, coming up with the south node of the moon and opposite Uranus. So I'll explain all of how that ties all together. And actually, also on the new moon in Virgo, we're going to have Venus in Leo squaring the nodes. So all these things tie together and are related to some themes that I feel are really key, really important to the healing of our world, healing of our own lives, healing of ourselves. And you know, the spirit world is just emphasizing to me so key and so important. Also, if you happen to see this video today, the day that I make it, tomorrow, August 13th, I'm going to be holding my third Soul Wisdom community gathering. So I'm just briefly mentioning that because most people will see this video after that, but I am holding these community gatherings once a month. So my next one is tomorrow, August 13th. The one in September will be on September 17th, etc. And you can find out all about that at my website, livingtheonelight.com. And we'll be dropping into some of these themes in each of those community gatherings also. But in terms of what I want to speak to today in this video, and also in the workshop I'm holding on August 24th about Virgo and our inner temple and our sovereignty. First, I will drop into some of my thoughts around just Virgo, the archetype, maybe from an angle that I don't know if it's conceived of this way that often, but anyway, give you my perspective. And then also I'll talk about Hygeia on the south node in Scorpio opposite Uranus. And then, Venus squaring the nodes. So, okay, first, Virgo in general. The aspect of the energetic of the archetype of Virgo that really speaks to me, calls to me very strongly, and feels so key to the healing of ourselves, the healing of our world, is the interrelated ideas that we are literal, actual temples of the divine. Our bodies are temples. I mean, that's stereotypical. We hear that idea, we know that. But it's true, and it's really important for us to, on a body level, get it. That we actually are living, breathing creations of the divine. That's indisputable. And therefore, temples of the divine, temples to the divine, especially, when we consciously hold ourselves in that way. I mean, anything alive is, anything in existence naturally just is a temple of the divine, but especially when we breathe life into ourselves as that temple, it is true. And And then interrelated with that idea of us being these temples of the divine is this idea that we also have sovereignty. So Virgo, the archetype, is associated with, the virgin, quote unquote, virgin goddess archetype. And lots of us know this, but I'll say this for people who this is new for. If this is new for you, I'm saying this for you. And even if it's not new for you, I'm saying it for you. I'm saying this for myself too. I always feel good having this reminder that the virgin goddesses is not about virginity. It's not about have you had sex. It's about sovereignty. It's about the idea that we, regardless of our gender, no matter how we identify gender-wise, in terms of sexual orientation, any of the above, on a fundamental level, we are sovereign beings in and of ourselves. And what really resonates for me and what has helped me so much over the past many years is with this idea of us having the ability to be sovereign temples in and of ourselves, just period. But then also, even when we choose, when and if we choose to be in relation to an other. So in a lot of stories about, sacred sexuality and quote unquote virgin goddesses, there's this idea that certain women would have this role of being in relation to men sexually, and then coming back into the temple, clearing and cleansing themselves, coming back into their sovereign being, fully and completely and totally letting go of whatever might have transpired between them and the energetic of that man. So I see that really as a metaphor for so many things. But I wonder, what would happen in the world? What would happen in the world if we all got it on this really deep level? And I'm speaking for myself too. Definitely not excluding myself from this. This is one of my big lessons, which is maybe why it calls to me so much. What would happen if we really deeply got this lesson of what it is, how we can be fully in our sovereign selves, and also in relation to each other? So for me, sovereignty feels like we all have energetic membranes around us. We all have energetic bubbles, right? And again, speaking for myself, someone identified as a girl, in particular, I think, but also somebody I'm very open and sensitive, as if you're watching this video, probably you are too. And so I feel things very strongly of what other people are feeling. I'm a caregiver. I'm wanting to nurture other people and all of that, right? Again, if you're listening to this, that probably applies to you too. So especially for those of us who are more of that caregiver type, and I think those of us identified as girls in particular, although I don't want to put that blanket statement there, I can again speak for myself that I think I've lived most of my life with the expectation, for whatever reason, that I need to have my membrane, my body envelope open, very rarely closed. It feels selfish to keep it closed. It feels like there's something I'm doing wrong, or not so much anymore, but this is, how once I became aware of myself a little more in this way, I realized that was the unconscious assumption I was holding, was that I need to consistently be in relation to others. as opposed to like clearly and cleanly and completely being in my sovereign, whole, complete bubble, my own self here. So when I started learning about the virgin goddesses, which includes Virgo, it includes several others, it was this amazing recognizing that this is a choice, that this is actually a healthy option that we have, and actually not only an option, but a need that we have as individuals and that our world needs us to do, is to come back into that sovereign being, that sovereign self that is each of us. Because then when we're solidly there and we're in that bubble, our energy is circulating within us, right? We're not leaking energy out. We're able to circulate our own energy efficiently and be healthier, be stronger, be more clear, it's much more easy to be aligned and to be clear about what works and what doesn't work for us. So then, and what we need, and we're much more easy to speak what we need and to get what, take responsibility for what we need. A lot of this, of course, is very tied in with attachment theory, which I won't go into right this second, but just to briefly say, in attachment theory, there's this idea that when we're born, our identity is completely merged with that of our mother and our caregiver. And then if we are cared for in a healthy way and mirrored and really nurtured in the ways that we need, and our needs are really met, then ideally in this perfect world, our attachment formation is clean and clear, and we get to the point where by age about 3-ish, we have this clear identity of ourselves as separate from the caregiver, but then able to relate as well. So the world isn't perfect, and almost none of us were raised in a perfect way. And so, lots of us have various ways in which we're still, our attachment style wasn't perfect and isn't perfect. And so we can get confused about me versus you and them versus me and all of that. And our identities are in some way energetically still overlapping and haven't fully separated enough to be clear in our own sovereign self to then be in relationship and even merge, but then be able to be separate at the same time. Okay. So that's a lot of concepts and talking there, but so bringing it back to Virgo and the sovereign self. So yeah, it feels so clean, so healthy, so healing. It has felt that way in my own life to recognize that it is not only okay, but actually important for me to practice and me to have time every day, and even most of the day, where I am just in my own sovereign bubble, in myself. Like that. And then when I choose to be in relation to others, either professionally, with my children, with a lover, with friends, giving a talk, whatever it is, petting my cats, first of all, that's a choice. Sometimes I have more of a choice than others. Like when you're breastfeeding a baby, you don't have that much of a choice. You just need to do it because that's your role as that breastfeeding parent. But in general, in theory, relating to an other is a choice. And so this gets into the relationship between the archetype of Virgo and the archetype of Libra. And next month, I'll talk more about the archetype of Libra probably, but I mean, Virgo comes right before Libra, and they're so interconnected. I feel so strongly that when Virgo precedes Libra, so when we're able to drop fully into this sacred temple, this sovereign being that is us, really get that, when we're able to fully get that Virgo energy, then when we move to the Libra relating and balancing and harmonizing, it's so much easier. And again, I'll say that more about that. I'll make a video, next month about Libra as we're leading up to the Libra new moon. But it's just key. What if all of us really got it? That ability to be centered, grounded, aligned in our sovereign being and the temple that is us. And then we're able to take that into our way of relating with the world, relating with others. I don't even know. I can't even, I mean, I think the world would just instantaneously do a double take and so many things would change. Personally, collectively, all of the above. So with regard to the workshop that I'm going to be holding on August 24th, right before the new moon in Virgo, what I really want to do is something that I haven't seen much of the opportunity to do, which is to really get it on a body level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, and even on an intellectual level. What is that temple that is you? What is that temple that is me? So for each of us, I want this workshop to be a time to drop in deeply, to really ground into, we've heard this, we are temples of the divine. Okay, sure. But what does your temple look like? Like if you really go inside, if I go inside, I've had some powerful life-changing experiences over the past 2-3 years around myself as a temple. I mean, literally has changed my life. Where I can go into myself and I can feel the fabric, like the tapestry of the inside of the temple. I can lie there and smell the breeze coming, through, like in my case, I feel my own inner temple as kind of like a tent. And anyway, I won't go like super into it because it feels a little more intimate than that. But each of it is so each of it, our inner temple theoretically could be so different from each other. So what is yours like? What are the textures like? What are the smells like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do you hear when you're in there? Do you invite someone else in there or other people, or is it fully for you? Or could that change over time? What's surrounding it? Is there a garden? Is there a lake? Is it in the cosmos? Is it in the middle of the stars? What is it like? And maybe you don't know. So this workshop is an opportunity to literally find that temple, or if you already have an experience of it, deeply go inside and experience it and explore it. And so this is going to be an opportunity, I will channel a guided meditation for us to drop into that place, drop into our temple, drop into our sovereign being that is us. And then also have an opportunity to do whatever you feel called in the moment. Write about it, free write, let poetry move through you, draw, paint, sing. You can turn off your video, turn off your mic, and maybe you need to cry. Maybe there's some dance, some movement that needs to move through you as your temple. Whatever it is, it's very embodied, experiential version of finding this inner temple that is you, and this Virgo archetype that is you. So if this calls to you, I would love to have you at this workshop. I want it to be really intimate and beautiful and nurturing for each of us, for each of you who feels called to be there. It's also going to be recorded, the channel part, not the sharing part, but you could be there live, and or you can have the recorded part and do this coming in, dropping into your own inner temple anytime, forever, over and over and over again. For me, it's certainly not just a one-time need. So, so yeah, August 24th, 10 a.m. Pacific for an hour and a half. So at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. That's a Wednesday. Please join me, and I would love to see you there. Yeah. Oh, sorry. And then to bring it back in all of the astrology that I wanted to speak to. So at the time of this new moon in Virgo, the new moon itself is going to be at 4 degrees and 3 minutes of Virgo. And Mars is actually going to be squaring the new moon at 4 degrees 0 minutes of Gemini. And it'll be in the beginning of its 7-month journey in Gemini, very long time in Gemini. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Hygeia will be almost conjunct the south node of the moon. Hygeia will be conjunct the south node of the moon very soon after the new moon. And Hygeia will be opposite Uranus. So Hygeia, I actually associate with Virgo in a lot of ways. And I happen to have my moon in Virgo on my Virgo ascendant conjunct Hygeia in Virgo. So these energies naturally for me go together, but just in general, I do think that Hygeia is very much associated with Virgo. At this moment, Hygeia happens to be in Scorpio on that south node of the moon. But Hygeia is a goddess asteroid that has to do with healing and hygiene. And she is very prominent in the charts of those of us who are healers in some way, right? So Hygeia for me, very prominent, conjunct my moon on my ascendant in Virgo. And squaring my sun and opposite my sun, squaring my Neptune, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So lots of people whose charts I look at actually have very prominent Hygeias, I think, because people who are interested in astrology often identify in some way as a healer. So I think it makes sense. But yeah, so for Hygeia to be in Scorpio on the south node of the moon, opposite Uranus in Taurus, that is just fascinating to me. And that configuration is already kind of energetically present even now, as I'm recording this video, and will be present for a good bit after the new moon as well. What that speaks to me of is the idea that, as I've been talking about in lots of other videos, Uranus in Taurus, among many other things, I feel so strongly is trying to bring us back to the intelligence of our bodies and the intelligence of ourselves as Earth and Earth bodies. And Hygeia on the south node in Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Taurus, I feel like is just an extra boost, like an extra reminder, like, hey, not only does our body have incredible intelligence and divine intelligence, moves as our bodies literally, there's also this little element of our health speaking to us with its own intelligence and speaking in concert with that intelligence of our bodies as the divine. So in a not so necessarily enjoyable way, I can see how Hygeia on the South Node in Scorpio, opposite Uranus, could come up in our lives if we're not listening to the intelligence of our bodies, could come up as what we experience as illness. So I personally just have experienced this over the last couple of weeks. And, when I really, something came up going on with my body and I listened, I went, first I didn't enjoy that. And then I dropped into, okay, what is my body trying to say? And I realized, got it. I wasn't listening to my body. And this was its way of speaking to me. All right, hear you. So ideally, of course, we wouldn't ignore our bodies, and we would listen and we would act on what our bodies need without our bodies speaking louder, the whole stereotypical thing. But then Hygeia also has this healing element. So I feel it with a healing intention. I don't feel it as trying to harm us. I feel it as it's our own inner healer. It's our own selves as healers. It brings in an ability for us to hold healing space with the intelligence of our bodies, with the intelligence of ourselves as beings on this earth, on this planet, speaking our own divine intelligence, speaking in concert with the intelligence of the earth and the intelligence of our bodies as beings of the divine. And these temples, it's all tied together. Yeah. And then when we are able to, really, again, coming back to the Virgo themes, when we're able to honor ourselves as these temples of the divine, it's so much easier. I personally, again, feel this relaxation and this permission granted to me, because if I'm a temple, literal temple of the divine, and my body is speaking to me, I definitely need to listen. I extra need to listen. The temple that is me is talking. It deserves and needs to be listened to, right? I have much more of a immediate reaction of needing to honor it, because it's a temple. It's not something to be ignored. And again, easier said than done. I just had an experience of ignoring it and then realizing I had ignored it and regretting I had ignored it. So this is not just, I'm not saying I have this all down pat. I'm saying that I'm human and I'm working with these energies too. And I just can feel so strongly how important this all is. And it's part of our learning and our lessons on this planet. So, and then the last part of the astrology of this new moon that I also want to name and speak to is Venus in Leo, which will be squaring the nodes of the moon at the time of the new moon. So Venus rules Taurus, which is where Uranus is, and has to do with our self-value, has to do with Venus in Leo can have to do with our self-value through our self-expression as being expression of our self-value. So again, this all ties together, right? The Uranus and Taurus is trying to help us come right back to our alignment with ourselves as the intelligence of the divine. Hygeia on the south node of the moon is trying to help us let go of crap, the stuff that we haven't been listening to. We haven't always listened to our bodies. We don't always listen in. We don't always take our soul seriously. And it's saying, hang on, come back here. Remember, you're actually a healer. You actually not only have the intelligence of the divine moving as you constantly, but you actually also are a healer on this earth in these various ways. And your instincts are healing instincts. So come back to it because otherwise it might not feel so great, right? Not as a threat, but just kind of as a reality, but also with that healing intention. And then this new moon in Virgo saying, yeah, you are a literal, actual, living, breathing temple of the divine as a sovereign being on this planet. And then Venus in Leo squaring the nodes of the moon saying, the expression that is you, the expression and the life force energy that is you moving through you is so beautiful, so sensual and alive and needed, and just come back to you as that perfect being, that perfect expression of the divine that is you. You're needed, you're loved, you're perfect just exactly as you are. So all of these cosmic energies are all essentially saying the same, they're circling around the same truth, which is we are perfect, whole, needed, sacred, divine, just exactly as we are. Yeah. Okay. So this is a very, very beautiful, very powerful new moon in Virgo. And whether or not you are able to join me for the workshop on August 24th, I would love to hear any stories you want to share with me around this new moon, around these energies, anything I'm speaking about. And this would be such a beautiful time. Again, we'll do this in the workshop, but if you want to just do it on your own, such a beautiful time to, like with all new moons, set a new intention, but come into a sacred space with yourself, come into a sacred space of you as that grounded, beautiful, perfect, divine temple to the divine, of the divine, as the divine. And it's a fresh start. The energy of the new moon just coming into that still, quiet, perfect moment of starting fresh from that deep knowing of yourself and that divinity that you are, that temple that you are, that sovereign being that you are. And when you come into that still, quiet place, what's that knowing there? What's the wisdom that comes through you as that divine temple that you are? And what's that new intention that you are needing to set in this time? I'd love to hear anything you want to share with me about this or anything else, honestly. I always love hearing from you. So, yeah, I think that's it. So again, if you feel called, I would love to have you at the August 24th workshop. I'm also going to be making a separate video. I'm going to be holding on August 31st, my first deep peace and healing circle. So I'll say more about that in another video. But that call for those deep peace and healing circles, very directly told by the divine to be holding those. That's also very tied to the Hygeia conjunct the South Node opposite Uranus. Those circles are going to be really about this radical ability to deeply rest, letting our nervous system just completely let go in the arms of the divine, in the arms of the cosmos, in the arms of this planet Earth in various ways. So each month I'm going to be holding those circles, and there are going to be times where you can just totally let go and completely receive from the spirit world. So yeah, if that piques your interest, let me know that too. But I'll say more about that in another video. And then in September, I have a whole bunch of things coming up too. And you can get that whole list of my the whole calendar coming up. If you get on my email list at livingtheonelight.com, or you can email me at livingtheonelight@gmail.com and I'll send that to you. Yeah, great. That's all for right now. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of August 2022. A beautiful time moving toward this new moon in Virgo, and lots of love in every moment of it all. I will talk with you soon. Thank you.